We are used to seeing the Duchess of Sussex battle the British tabloids. We have watched her go to war with her own family, her former staff, and even the royal institution itself. But today, news has broken that suggests she has finally picked a fight with an opponent that simply does not lose. An opponent with deeper pockets, sharper lawyers, and a more ruthless protection of its brand image than even the House of Windsor. Today, the House of Chanel has reportedly filed a lawsuit that is sending shockwaves through the legal corridors of Los Angeles and the fashion capitals of Europe. And the numbers are absolutely staggering. We aren't talking about a cease and desist letter. We are talking about an $8 million claim for damages, fraud, and breach of contract. The accusation: it is a retail practice known in the industry as wardrobing, but on a scale that honestly defies belief. The lawsuit alleges that over a period of 18 months, Meghan Markle purchased, wore, and then returned 47 distinct couture and ready-to-wear pieces. But she didn't return them because they didn't fit. Chanel claims she wore them to high-profile events, photo shoots, and private dinners only to return them the next day, claiming they were unworn or defective. This is not a case of a customer changing her mind. According to the legal filing, this was a systematic, calculated fraud operation designed to maintain a multi-million-dollar wardrobe on a $0 budget. Chanel is essentially alleging that the Duchess treated their flagship boutiques like a free rental library. And here is the most damning part. They say they have the receipts, the dates, and most terrifyingly for the Sussex camp, the security footage that proves it all. Let's break down exactly how this wardrobing scheme worked, because the details in the complaint are forensic. Usually, when you buy a Chanel dress, especially haute couture or high-end ready-to-wear, there are strict protocols. Tags must remain attached. The garment must be pristine. Chanel alleges that Meghan, or rather her team of assistants and stylists acting on her direct orders, mastered the art of tag manipulation. The lawsuit claims that security tags were carefully removed using specialized tools, specifically a tag gun bought by the Sussex team. This allowed them to cut the original Chanel tag off so it would be invisible for the paparazzi photos, and then reattach it the next morning with surgical precision before boxing the item up and driving it back to Rodeo Drive. Why go to such lengths? Why risk a lawsuit for clothes? Because this isn't just about the fabric. It is about the illusion of wealth. Chanel argues that by wearing these items publicly and then returning them, Meghan effectively used the brand for commercial gain, building her image as a fashion icon without paying for the privilege. They are claiming reputational damage, arguing that having their couture pieces returned soiled devalues the exclusivity of the house. The number 47 is specific. It's not dozens. It is exactly 47 items tracked in a dossier. Item 1, a tweed jacket worn to an Invictus lunch, returned citing itchy lining. Item 2, a silk evening gown worn to a private dinner, returned 48 hours later, citing wrong shade of black. Item 3, a cashmere set worn for a Zoom call, returned because it didn't photograph well. The meticulous nature of this record-keeping suggests Chanel has been watching her for a very long time, letting her dig the hole deeper until the evidence was undeniable. But if you think the tag manipulation was bold, wait until you hear about the forensic evidence Chanel's labs found on the clothes. Chanel is not just a clothing brand. They are a laboratory of luxury. When high-value items are returned, they don't just go back on the rack, they undergo a microscopic inspection. The lawsuit details the condition of Item 14, a white silk blouse returned as unworn. Chanel's lab report included in the filing shows traces of a specific bronzer a brand Meghan is publicly known to use embedded deep in the collar fibers. But it gets more specific. They also found traces of a specific perfume, Côte d'Azur by Oribe, which Meghan has stated in interviews is her signature scent. They didn't just find makeup, they allegedly found DNA skin cells and hair follicles. Chanel has preserved these samples. They are literally arguing that the biomarkers on the returned clothes match the defendant. This is CSI Rodeo Drive. They are prepared to DNA test the sweat stains on a $5,000 jacket to prove she wore it to that nervous lunch with TV executives. The sheer volume of 47 items also defeats the mistake defense. You might accidentally return one dress you wore. You don't return 47. The lawsuit alleges that the value of the goods borrowed and returned amounts to over $600 in inventory. But the damage to the brand is calculated at $8 million because Meghan used Chanel's intellectual property, their designs, to promote her own commercial ventures, her books, and her podcasts without compensating the creator. This leads us to Patient Zero, the dress that started the war. The lawsuit references Item 47, a gold boucle gown worn to a high-profile awards gala in New York. The next morning, that dress came back to the boutique in a box. According to the incident report, the dress was destroyed. There was a 3-inch tear in the hem and a large oily stain on the interior lining of the bust consistent with body makeup. When the sales associate refused the return, the situation escalated from a dispute to a crisis. The lawsuit explicitly references Exhibit A through Exhibit Z, digital video files captured at Chanel flagship boutiques in Beverly Hills and Paris. You might think, so what, it just shows assistants returning clothes. But it is the audio on these tapes that is damning. Chanel's legal team describes an incident on December 12th involving a senior Sussex aide attempting to return a tweed suit valued at $12,000. When the sales associate pointed out a distinct crease in the skirt consistent with being sat in for hours, the aide allegedly raised her voice saying, "You do not say no to the Duchess. If you don't take this back, she will claim it was defective and destroy your brand in the press." This is legally classified as extortion. It is using the threat of negative PR to force a retailer to accept used goods. But the most explosive piece of evidence isn't from the store cameras. It allegedly comes from the Harry and Meghan Netflix documentary raw footage. Chanel's lawyers have successfully subpoenaed the B-roll, the hundreds of hours of footage that never made the final cut. Sources familiar with the reviewed footage say there is a scene where Meghan is being fitted for a gala appearance wearing a Chanel gown. In the background, clear as day, you can hear a discussion about hiding the tag. They discuss tucking it inside the lining and taping it down so it doesn't show in photos explicitly so it can be returned the next morning. One voice is reportedly heard joking, "Don't spill the wine, or we own it." Or we own it. That phrase is the smoking gun. It proves they had no intention of keeping the item. It proves premeditated fraud. If this footage is played for a jury, the defense is over. You cannot argue good faith when you are on tape laughing about deceiving the vendor. And just when you thought it couldn't get worse, we have to talk about who paid for the clothes initially. Where is Prince Harry in all of this? The lawsuit notes that several of the credit cards used for the initial purchases before the refunds were processed were in the name of Prince Henry of Wales. His cards were the vehicle for the transaction. If he knew about the scheme, if he saw her wearing the dress and then saw her boxing it up the next day, he is technically an accessory to fraud. But Chanel's lawyers are not just angry about the returns. They are looking at the accounting. The lawsuit contains a terrifying paragraph regarding unjust enrichment and tax implications. Here is the scheme. They are alleging Meghan's business management team would purchase a $10,000 dress using a credit card linked to Archewell Productions or one of their media LLCs. They would log this purchase as a production expense, a costume for a shoot or event. This allows them to deduct the cost from their taxable income. So far, that's standard Hollywood accounting. But here is the fraud. The next day, they return the dress for a full refund. The money goes back onto the card. But, and this is the $6 million question, did they remove the deduction from their tax filing? Chanel alleges they did not. They claim Meghan was double dipping. She was getting the cash refund from the store and keeping the tax write-off from the IRS. She was effectively making money on every dress she bought. If she did this 47 times, we are talking about tens of thousands of dollars in fraudulent tax deductions. This is the kind of thing that triggers federal investigations. You do not mess with the IRS, and you certainly don't use Chanel as the vehicle for tax evasion. The release of this double-dipping theory has reportedly triggered an automatic audit. If agents find a discrepancy, this moves from a civil suit to a federal criminal investigation. The fallout has been immediate. In Hollywood, stylists are the gatekeepers. Since the lawsuit dropped, major Hollywood stylists are reportedly resigning from Meghan's team. Why? Because they don't want to be deposed. They don't want to be named as doe number one in a fraud case. We are hearing that Meghan is currently unrepresented in the wardrobe department and is having to shop online anonymously because no showroom will take her call. But the real blow comes from a specific witness. Chanel's legal team has signaled they have a third-party witness, someone who wasn't an employee, but a close friend. A subpoena has been served to a high-profile A-list actress and former confidant of the Duchess. While we cannot name her for legal reasons, yet sources confirm she is cooperating. Why would a friend turn on her? Because she has her own deals with Vuitton and Gucci to protect. She cannot be seen as an accomplice to retail fraud. This witness has reportedly provided a sworn deposition stating that she personally witnessed Meghan using the tag gun to reattach labels. She witnessed the conversation where Meghan allegedly said, "It's only cheating if you get caught." This testimony destroys the rogue assistant defense. It places the tag gun directly in Meghan's hand. It proves that the Duchess herself was the architect of the scam. The betrayal of this friend is the final psychological blow. It confirms that in Hollywood, loyalty is transactional. Meghan is now a liability, and her circle is cutting her loose to save themselves. The reaction from the industry has been brutal and swift. We are hearing from sources in Paris that a red notice has been issued internally among the major fashion conglomerates. This is the blacklist. The heads of LVMH, who own Dior, Vuitton, Givenchy, and Kering Gucci, have reportedly placed Meghan Markle on a do not loan, do not sell list. This is unprecedented. Usually brands fight to dress a duchess. Now they are fighting to keep her out of their stores. Imagine the humiliation. Meghan sends a stylist to Dior to pull a look for her next appearance, and the stylist is told, "I'm sorry, the showroom is closed to your client." Without access to couture, she loses her armor. She loses the visual language of wealth that she relies on. She will be forced to buy off the rack or wear lesser brands that don't carry the same prestige. And breaking news from New York confirms that Anna Wintour, the editor-in-chief of Vogue and organizer of the Met Gala, has made a definitive move. For years, there has been a debate. Will she or won't she attend the Met Gala? Today, sources inside Condé Nast tell us the debate is over. The invitation hasn't just been withheld. Meghan Markle has been placed on the permanent ineligible list. Why? Because Anna Wintour respects the designers above all else. She relies on Chanel and Dior to fund her magazine. She cannot be seen endorsing a woman who is legally accused of defrauding those very advertisers. A source close to Wintour reportedly said, "Anna does not tolerate thieves. You can be controversial, you can be messy, but you cannot be cheap. And returning stained couture is the definition of cheap." This ban is catastrophic for Meghan's rebranding. The Met Gala is the Super Bowl of celebrity relevance. By alienating Wintour, Meghan has closed the door to the only room left that matters. As we approach the final chapter of this legal drama, the question is, will she settle? Can she settle? Chanel has signaled they are not interested in a quiet payout. They want a public apology. They want her to admit on the record that she lied. For someone who prides themselves on their image, that is a fate worse than bankruptcy. But the walls are closing in. The IRS is knocking at the door. The audio tapes of her screaming at staff are threatening to leak. And the Markle Clause is now being written into contracts across Paris, a new rule requiring credit card deposits for all celebrity loans specifically because of her alleged actions. This lawsuit does more than just ask for money. It destroys the style icon narrative completely. A style icon sets trends and supports designers. A person who buys a dress, sweats in it, and returns it is not an icon. They are a nightmare customer. Meghan wanted to be the queen of Hollywood, but it looks like she just got locked out of the castle. If you want to stay updated on the trial dates and the potential release of those audio tapes, make sure you're subscribed. This story is far from over.